think we'll crack on. So we'll start with Rory. If we can use the chat facility as normal to request a question, that'd be very useful. Over to you, Rory.
Okay. Hi, Ben. How you going? You all right?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Good. I suppose if we could start just with... is that okay? Can you hear me?
Hold on.
Sorry, guys. Volume's down on here.
They don't often say that about me, Danny.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Yeah. Ben, if we could just start with perhaps how you found the whole lockdown experience, really. You know, you went through quite an intense period with being in the spotlight. You know, almost every move you made was quite well followed. To have had that period of lockdown, has that felt like actually getting off the treadmill a bit and a bit of time to yourself that was much needed?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was pretty much like 13 or 14 weeks of lockdown. So it was a long time to be doing something that I'm not used to doing, which is being at home. And I think, you know, everybody would have gone through different emotions. You know, I'm just talking about the cricket squad here. So, you know, personally, I found it sort of almost be like a roller coaster, especially towards the back end of lockdown, where, you know, first probably 8 weeks was, you know, just so full on of training and sort of repeated stuff day to day, and then you sort of fall off again, and then you've got to get back on it again, and then the last 2 weeks before we came into camp, you sort of I found myself just wishing it was, you know, day one down in Hampshire again. So yeah, it was strange, but you know, at the same time, it was also brilliant. Some time with Claire and the kids, which, you know, I haven't really been able to do for the last 6-7 years, and I'm sure everybody's felt the same. That quality time that we have with families, we will be able to look back on in however many years and take, you know, a very small positive out of this really tough time, that we were able to actually spend time with our family.
And obviously, the tour itself, the current West Indies tour, was in some doubt. They had a tough decision to make, whether to come to England, given that the Caribbean was less affected than we've been. As cricketers, you've had to make difficult decisions about going and staying places in the past. Were you, just your thoughts really on their gesture in coming forward here and stepping forward to get cricket on the road again?
Yeah, I think it was, you know, I think everybody was sort of watching in and, you know, checking the news about the West Indies movements. And when it got confirmed that they were coming out, it was very exciting to think about that we're going to be back on the field playing some competitive cricket again. You know, so a huge credit to the West Indies players and the cricket board for pushing the series through. Because, you know, everybody wants to see cricket back on the field. But I think it's also been done in the right way. You know, all the safety checks have been made, and we know that we're going to go out onto the field in a very safe environment. And whilst we've been down here at Hampshire for the first week, everybody's really abided by the rules that we've been told to stick to. So as long as we keep doing that, you know, I mean, control the controllables, really. It's sort of like cricket, you know, control the controllables, and hopefully we can see the rest of the summer out with lots of cricket on the field.
Obviously, Joe's personal situation with the baby has got us all talking about Captain Stokes. Have you started preparing as though you'll be captaining the first test? And if not, it could be the second, but in all likelihood you will be stepping out and leading England and captaining a test match. Just tell us how that sounds and how that feels.
To be honest, given it a little bit of thought, haven't really dived into it yet. You know, it's all about, for me at the moment, it's all about preparing and, you know, getting to the level that I want to be, you know, 2-3 days out before the first test match starts. But, you know, I know that I've got to keep, because we've got so many new players in this, you know, we've got such a big squad at the moment that there's so many players that you've got to keep your eye on, and, you know, asking how, because we're in split training at the moment, it's tough to be able to see everybody. So yeah, you know, I mean, I haven't fully dived into the whole idea yet, on purpose. I'm just waiting for the right time to do that. But yeah, look, it's still a long way off. So I'm sure when it gets a little bit closer and it's 100% confirmed that I will be in charge, then I'm sure the mindset will change.
Okay, who's next, please?
Sweet, that's it. Let's go.
I'll go with someone else, Will. Ben, you say you haven't thought about it too much, but how much would it mean to you to be captain of your country? That must be a huge thing, which is really coming on the horizon now.
Yeah, I mean, look, I didn't mean that to sound as if it's not a big deal or anything like that. I mean, obviously, getting the opportunity to captain England is a huge honour, and even if it's only the once, you can still say that I've captained England. So it's a huge honour to sort of think about, and something that obviously I'm really looking forward to if the opportunity presents itself. But also at the same time, I know I'm only stepping in to take over the reins for the one game because of Joe's personal situation. So yeah, I don't know if I can really say much more on it, to be honest. But it's a huge thing to think about, and if it does present itself, then obviously I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, watching the watch along of Headingley that you did a few weeks ago with Sky, it was clear how much thought you do put into every ball that you were thinking about. It's clearly you do think about the tactics a lot about the game. It's not all instinctive like someone like Ian Botham perhaps. But so what sort of captain do you think you'd be if it does come?
9 slips in a gully, probably.
You think you'd be quite attacking?
Look, I mean, I've been a senior player in the team sort of since 2016, under Cookie, and obviously been, since Joe's been in charge. So being able to learn from Alistair Cook and being able to learn from Rooty in terms of different situations throughout the game, I think has rubbed off on me, and will put me in good stead for when all the different situations that Test match can throw at you. But at the same time, we've got some really, really experienced guys out in the field who I can use. We've got Jimmy, Brody, who've just got ample Test matches and wickets between them. And there's so many people that you can throw ideas off. And I would like to think that I'll be quite an open captain and wouldn't want to just that my way is the only way. Because necessarily I don't think that is the best way to operate. There's 11 guys out on the field, so why not get 10 other opinions on something that you're thinking about.
Thank you.
Okay, Ali Martin, please.
Hi, Ben. The West Indies they've announced that they're going to be in Lives Matters shirts.
Sorry, mate, you break.
And I was just wondering, can you hear me?
Yeah, you have to start that again. Sorry, Ali.
Oh, that's all right. It's just the West Indies have the Black Lives Matters logo on their Test shirts. Just wondering what England were planning to do, if you sort of formalised the plan yet, but also more widely, kind of what your understanding is of that movement and its importance at the moment.
Yeah, look, I mean, in terms of the game, we haven't set anything crystal clear yet. We are having discussions. And we're also having discussions with Jason Holder because I think it would be great to be able to do something as, Team England and Team West Indies and showing our support together as two different nations. But in terms of anything crystal clear, we're not there yet. But, there are conversations going on, as I said before, that Joe's having chats with Jason, and so the conversation is going. There will be something happening, but it's not 100% crystal clear yet. But I think in a situation like this, it's great that two teams are wanting to work together to be able to show support towards Black Lives Matter.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll go with John from TalkSport, then Julian.
Hey Ben, thanks for chatting. Stuart Broad spoke over the weekend about maybe getting a little bit of help to getting up and ready, playing for England. in regard to there not being any spectators in the crowd. He was saying that he uses the crowd to get motivated, for want of a better word. Are you someone that needs tricks like that to get yourself motivated? And if so, what kind of tricks do you employ? Or do you just have no problem getting yourself up playing for England, whether it's in front of crowds or without?
I don't think it's a struggle to get yourself up playing for England. I think what the crowd does is it gives you an extra bit of energy. Like, I'll just use an example. That last day, the test match we played in Cape Town, when all of the Barmy Army there, and it felt like a home game, that really got everybody out on the field, like, buzzing for that game. You know, it's not even though there's not going to be any crowds here, you know, lads won't struggle to get up for. I think it's a fine margin between, you know, getting up for it and then the crowd giving you a bit more. That's what I think the crowd gives you. But the fact that there's not going to be a crowd there, I don't think that we can use that as an excuse for our levels of intensity, because, as you said, you know, we're walking out onto the field representing England, which thousands of people would give, you know, their right arm to be able to do what we do every day. And whether or not that's in front of a full house or in front of a lockdown crowd, well, no crowd like we're going to be playing in, then it shouldn't matter. You know, you've got the 3 lines on your chest. It is a completely different situation that we're used to. But I think once we get out there and realise that we're in a test match representing England, I think everybody will be fine.
And continuing the theme of motivating, if and when you are named captain of England, do you see yourself as the kind of captain that is going to lead by example, or do you see yourself as someone much more in tune with the game, as Stuart Broad also said about you? You're a cricket man. Do you see yourself as leading from the front in terms of tactics, or both?
Well, I'd hope that, you know, I always try and set the example to lead in terms of attitude and commitment towards what I do as an individual. And then, you know, obviously having the added responsibility of being a captain, you know, that also comes with pressure in terms of making decisions, you know, especially through tough periods of the game, which obviously Test cricket can throw at you when, you know, if another team's putting a big partnership on, you know, you're the person who makes the decision to try and break that partnership. So, you know, you've got all that to think about. But I think even if I am in charge, that's not going to change the way that I go about things in terms of how I want to influence the game, which is to try and make a positive effect with the ball or bat in my hand. But I think no matter what I do in terms of choosing what to do in a situation, it will always be the positive route.
Thank you, Vic.
Thanks, John. Julian, please.
Hello, Ben. Can I just ask you, when was the last time you captained a side, and what do you remember of it?
I think it might have been an academy game against Scotland or something. And I don't remember much because I was about 16, I think.
Fair enough. Is captaincy something then that you know, until you got the England vice captaincy, was it something you thought about much? So was it an ambition to captain teams?
I mean, not really. You know, I've never set a goal out to want to be a captain. I think if you look at, you know, so if you look at people, you know, like Alistair Cook was always destined to be England captain after Andrew Strauss. Joe Root was always destined to be captain after Alistair Cook. So, you know, I think you just sort of know who's going to be the next England captain once one captain sort of coming towards the end of his career. And if I'm being honest, I'm not one of those people that, you know, people would necessarily associate the next England captain. But yeah, that's what everyone says. I mean, it's never been a goal, but, you know, I'm really looking forward to the opportunity of doing it. But yeah, being a captain has never been a real. I've never really set massive goals, to be honest. It's just always about winning.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thanks, Julian. Dean and then Nick Holt, please.
Hi, Ben. Just in terms of the responsibilities of a captain, you know, captains tend not to go out onto the field unless they get the 11 players that they want. How much do you think you may or may not be involved in selection? Firstly, when that 30 becomes a squad, and and then when you actually choose the 11 to go out. And I just wonder as well, obviously there's a rare situation where everyone is fit and ready. There's no injuries, there's no niggles. It's probably the toughest selection squad to kind of choose from. How do you kind of see your role in that, and how it might evolve over the next few days?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm just gonna chuck it on to Ed Smith here, head selector. He's the person who makes the decisions on in terms of cutting it down. But when crunch comes to crunch, then I think I quite like to have a decent say in terms of the final 11 that will be walking out onto the field. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what sort of happens around that when we get closer to the game.
And of course, with no cricket to speak of in the run-up to this, are you really looking for players to show some form, show what they've got both in training and then in this 3-day warm-up game? Are you really kind of looking for people to put their hand up and push their case forward then? Yeah,
I think so, and especially in a situation like you said there, where we've got everyone's fit. So you've almost got I feel like we're in a situation with the one-day team before the World Cup where you could pick 16 guys, but you can only pick 11, which is a great place to be in. So I think a lot of what guys do in training and what guys do in this 3-day warm-up will have an influence in terms of that first 11 that walk out onto the field here in that test match. But I've got to say that everybody so far in training, it's just so hard to see who's ahead of who, because obviously everyone's been working really, really hard in their individual training and at their counties, which was shown at the standard of training here. So, yeah, first game in charge, everyone's fit, can only pick 11. So, yeah, I might not have as many friends after this test match.
Cheers, thanks.
Okay, Nick, Stefan, and then we'll take one more after that.
Hi, Ben. You had an amazing 2019 personally. How can 2020 live up to
that? I mean, look, it's completely different. It's obviously Ashes and the World Cup in the same year is something very special, and not many people, I would say, they've been able to take part in. And then, jump forward to 2020, and we're looking at playing our first game in July. So to be able to compare both of them, it's just impossible. But I think the fact that we're preparing and being able to get out onto a cricket field is, the best possible thing for the sport. I thought at some stage throughout the lockdown that we weren't going to have any international cricket, or let alone cricket, throughout the whole 2020 calendar. So to say that we're finally getting out to the field in July is something very special, and I think that's a win in itself, to be honest.
And you've done a lot of stuff during your time for the Cockermouth Cricket Club. Are you keen to see club cricket get back on again?
Yeah, I mean, I think club cricket should start. I mean, I've seen a quote of Matt Wood saying, "You don't want to miss out on the next England superstars." So for club cricket to be put back, but pubs to be allowed to open on Saturday is a bit strange to comprehend, I guess. And I know that people are absolutely desperate. I've obviously got friends who play in the league in the northeast and in Cumbria who are just dying to get back out into the field, and that's obviously at an amateur level. So everybody needs something, and people who love playing cricket, that's what they're just desperate to get back on the field and start playing. And the quicker that happens, the better. I just don't really see why it can't happen, especially when you see other things that are allowed to happen.
Cheers, thanks.
Okay, Steph, go ahead.
Hello, Ben. Was there a time in the past where you wouldn't have felt as comfortable as you are now taking on the captaincy? And if that is the case, how do you feel that you've changed so that now is the right time?
Probably my debut game. I wouldn't have fancied it, to be honest. But I don't know. I think since playing more and being a more permanent member of the team over the last 5-6 years, You know, it makes you feel, you know, obviously as you play more games, you become more senior, you become more comfortable, you become more sort of confident in getting your views across. And then when senior players take on that advice and then, you know, appreciate what you're saying, you then start to realise that, you know, you are becoming a senior member of this team. And then obviously since Joe's taken over, I think that sort of helped me think about the game outside of what I do. And I don't know, just growing, getting older, playing more cricket, maturing as a player, you know, I think is probably why, you know, I found myself in this position that if anything does happen to Joe, then I'll be in charge.
Okay, last question, George Bell.
Good day. It's quite often Joe says that it's quite hard to get the ball out of your hands, and you mentioned that Cape Town test at the end there. Is that something you're actually going to have to be mindful of if you are captain, about making sure that you use yourself sparingly just to make sure that you can get through? What have we got, 6 back-to-back tests effectively?
It depends if it's a flat wicket or not. If it's flat, then I'll just chuck the ball to Jofra and Brody and Jimmy and say, on you go. But I think, yeah, I mean, it is a tough one, obviously, because, you know, when Joe sort of asks me to come and bowl, he's, you know, if I'm not bowling well, I sort of know, right, I'm probably going to get taken off here. But then when I feel like I'm in a really good rhythm and don't want to be taken off, Joe sort of just like, he doesn't say keep going. He's just like, sort of just looks and goes like, one more. And then he'll say that for another 4 or 5 overs. So I guess I might have to be a little bit more mindful as I'm the person who's making that decision. But as I said, you know, if I've got the ball in my hand or I've got the bat in my hand, I would like to think that I'm still going to have that same mentality as I always do. Because, you know, I've been in so many different situations on the field as a batter and as a bowler that I can always relate back to them and sort of think, right, what did Joe expect? What did Joe expect of me to do in this situation? But yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, isn't it? It is a tough one to know if you are feeling good as a bowler, when to take yourself on or to keep yourself on. But yeah, don't know, mate. You have to wait and see.
Okay, it'll be fun. Good luck. Thank you.
Cheers.
Okay, thank you very much. Just for clarity, 6 p.m. embargo for this evening, and I'll send you some footage of Ben from training this morning and some stills as well, so you can use those. So you should get those in the next hour or so. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny. Cheers,
Thank you,
Danny.
Ben. Thank you, Danny.
Cheers, thank you.